And if it was understood that my intention was saying, you have to take Kevin Samuels' advice, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this: you don't get to choose how truth is given to you all the time.
Sure,
God may only send this person to tell you the
truth
that no one else will tell you, and you are responsible for receiving that, and it's not always going to be on a silver platter. And as believers, we need to be able to recognize truth when it's spoken so we can chew the meat and spit out the bones. What's going on?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you for asking.
No problem.
Yes. What is today? Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. It is May 19th, 2022. And we have Denai from Black Marriage Movement Instagram page, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So go ahead and just introduce yourself for anyone who doesn't know you already.
Sure. So, hi guys. My name is Denai Marari. I am the founder of the Black Marriage Movement. I am a couples dating and relationship coach. I run the Black Marriage Movement page, which is basically a page where we celebrate and honor marriages, Black men, Black women, coupling together, having Black children, and, doing the Black thing. No, I'm just playing. But we celebrate Black love on my channel. And and I wanted to kind of be the change that I wanted to see in the world, which is why I created the channel. When I got onto Instagram, there was a lot of negativity in the relationship space between Black men and Black women in particular. And I thought that I could contribute something positive and actually beneficial to the community. And so here we are, 4 or 5 years later.
Nice.
Yeah.
So sorry, a little distracted, but that's awesome. I think that's a good cause that you have. And I think that for anyone that's just joining from your channel, me and a good friend of mine, Christian Love, he's working tonight. That's why it's called Kaz TV. It's Christian and Zach TV. We made a video about different denominations, and it just got shared by a bunch of different pages, and then we kind of got 1,000 followers really quick, and we're like, wow, this is pretty cool. So we started going live. We started bringing people on, and so a lot of our conversations are from a Christian perspective. We try to talk about things from a biblical perspective, and a lot of our skits that we do on TikTok usually, and sometimes on here, are funny things that go on in church. We try to stay away from things that are sacred, but we just joke about little idiosyncrasies here and there between different denominations and clergy people, things like that. But I wanted to go ahead and set the foundation for the conversation today. First and foremost, I want to let everybody know that when we have conversations on here, we've had people in the past that will disagree with me, that may agree with me, whatever. But one thing we always try to do is keep the conversations truthful and respectful. We try not to call people names. We don't, use profanity. I can't control what, if someone requests to come on and they use profanity, I can't really control what they say, but we try to keep that to a minimum. I personally don't use it, especially not on live. And then, like we spoke earlier on the phone, we want to keep it respectful for each other. And there's going to be areas we agree. There's areas we probably disagree. But just want to go ahead and put that out there first and foremost. The next thing that I just want to go ahead and say before we get started is that the topic of this conversation, we're going to speak about different ideas, especially ones from Kevin Samuels, we spoke about earlier, that we think are good or bad, whatever. And then we're going to focus the main part of our conversation about family and biblical view of that, and truths that can help bring the family together and bring our community together and ultimately glorify God. So starting that out, I just want to go ahead and say this. for anybody that doesn't know me, just like anybody else, I don't agree with everything that anybody says. I don't, except for maybe Jesus, and I would even argue that sometimes my mind doesn't agree with him, you know, even though it should.
He was hard sometimes. He would speak a hard truth.
So I just want to go ahead and put that out there. And as we start our conversation, that there are things I agree with, many people, including Kevin, things I agree with, things I think are good and helpful, and things that I don't agree with.
Okay. I came on and I found out about you because a lot of my followers were tagging me in a recent post of yours. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them were trying to explain kind of where they were coming from. And a lot of the followers from my side were women. And so they were saying, Dana, I think you could explain this a little bit better than I'm doing. I'm not really kind of getting my point across properly. And so I took a look at it, and I definitely had, some things to say. So I think since that's what brought me over, full disclosure, I think it would be context-wise really good for us to play the clip, and then we could talk about, what my thoughts were, because I wasn't able to share them. I don't think I shared everything on your timeline, and we were going back and forth going, honestly, we've done this over and over again. And so going live would be a better way of us talking about it than just going into the comments. So I'm going to play the clip, and then I'm going to...
Here, I got it right here.
Oh, you got it?
I got it right here. Yeah.
Okay.
I go ahead and play it right here. So keep in mind, everybody, if you did not watch the full YouTube video, which it tells you to do, you won't get the full context of our conversation. But here is the 59-second clip of what she's referring to. I said, I think he did more for Black America than a lot of these icons, Tupac, Nipsey Hussle, Biggie, or even Obama or Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you. He stood for, men being fathers, the patriarchy. He stood for accountability. He stood for, like you said, keeping the Black family together and not just making babies. And if you did make a baby, on his channel, he would tell women all the time, why don't you try going back to your baby daddy?
Yeah, why don't you marry
him? Keep that family together. Keep those two together. He stood for that. And I thought that was
right.
Go ahead.
Right. And I don't want to make him sound like he was a saint or anything like that, but I think the fact that he pushed Black America to think of marriage as something that is setting up for the next generation rather than my own happiness is something that needed to be talked about for a long time, and he did that. And that's the clip. And you can see the full video on the YouTube page. Link is in the bio, and then we had a full conversation with a relationship expert, and then it goes into that even more. So check that out if you haven't already.
Yes. So the clip starts by saying that they were referring to Kevin Samuels and basically saying, I think that he did more for Black America than Tupac or Biggie. I mean, they're rappers. So context-wise, that's, but there are a lot of people who would argue that. I won't take that up. But more than Obama or Kamala Harris, I would vehemently disagree with, if for no other reason than little Black boys and little Black girls knowing that they could reach into the highest echelons of political power and leadership in this nation. And prior to those two people doing that, that wasn't even possible. It wasn't something that we saw. It wasn't something that anybody had done for the history of this country. So I would vehemently disagree with that. But in addition to that, I think there are a couple of different issues that I have with the clip, which is a clip, but we're addressing the clip. So that's what we're going to talk about. The first is that if you isolate the people that you are trying to preach a message to, let's say that you actually have an incredible message that you want to get to a population of people, and your genuine interest is to change lives, to change marriages, to change relationships, and your way of communicating that message to that audience is to insult them, to dehumanize them, to demean them, to put them down, and to criticize them, you're going to lose your audience. At the very least, Kamala and Obama didn't do that. They were very inclusive, and they wouldn't have gotten into office if not, because you can't isolate, you know, half the population that you're trying to get votes from and somehow manage to find your way in audience, or find yourself into, you know, a position of leadership. Having said that, you know, that's enough about Kamala and Obama.
Give me just a second. I just need to grab my charger real quick. I just need to see if there's a charger. We're on 20%.
Okay, no worries.
Go ahead.
That's fine. I'll just reiterate my point.
Yeah, go ahead.
My point is that if you isolate your audience, you cannot teach them. If you insult your audience, you cannot teach them. If you put your audience down and encourage, you know, half of your audience cheering while the other half of your audience is being insulted, I would say that there's nothing really beneficial in that. And I think it's kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you have something that people need to learn and you're unwilling to communicate in a manner that people can actually hear you. And so I think that that's one of the big pushbacks against Kevin. And I want to be clear that I want to be respectful. The man has passed away. And, you know, I don't wish anyone's downfall. And I've said this on my page, and I don't condone people celebrating his death. I'm really not here for that. I think that's disgusting. And while he was alive, I didn't even advocate for, you know, him being canceled, which a lot of people come to my page and be like, they should cancel him. I'm like, no, I actually believe in the First Amendment. I believe in having varied voices. And I know that there are a lot of men who are saying that, you know, he speaks for a certain segment of the population that hasn't been heard. And I would really love to hear that segment of the population. My only thing has always been, can you not insult me and put me down and dehumanize me while I'm hearing you? Because that's not what I'm here for.
Right. No, I let me go ahead and plug this in real quick. Got a charger. Plug this in here. Give me just a second. Let me grab a cord, a block real quick.
All right. Well, while he's grabbing that, I'm going to grab a glass of water.
All right. Here we go. Sorry about these technical difficulties. All right. Plug this in. There we go. We're in business now. All right. So, first thing that I would like to say, again, I don't agree with everything that anybody does or says. Besides Jesus and even him, sometimes I don't want to agree, right? But I would like to make sure this conversation talks about the ideas rather than the person. Okay?
I think that's what I just did.
No, okay, yeah. And one other thing I just want to make sure we're clear on. Just as you and I said, I want to make sure this conversation is respectful. One thing that I take as disrespectful is interrupting. I'm not saying you're going to do that, but I just want to just make sure that's clear going forward, because I definitely want your viewpoint to be heard. I also want mine to be heard, and I think it's respectful for both of us to do that. Okay? So a couple of things that I heard from what you said that I agree with. I agree that your intention should be to help people. If you're going to be preaching a message, your intention should not be to cut someone down, to hurt them, or insult them, right? I agree with you on that, and I don't agree with every tactic that he may have used. The reason that I said in the clip that you saw, and the point that I was trying to get across in what I said was this, and I'll ask you a question. What would you say is the biggest problem in the Black community, excuse me, today, outside of an individual's personal salvation and relationship with Jesus?
I would prefer that you make your point rather than asking me a question.
I'm just curious. Okay, well, I'll say this.
I literally don't know. That's a huge question. I don't know.
I'll say this. Would you agree that the Black family and the stability of the Black family would be at least considered a top priority? Should be
absolutely.
Top priority.
Yes.
Okay, good. We're on the same page there. That's all I was going to ask you about. So we're on the same page there, right? The point that I'm making is this. There were truths and things that Kevin Samuels said that none of the people that I mentioned earlier said, or maybe were able to say because of the position they were in. It doesn't take away from the greatness that they achieved, especially politically or image-wise. It does not take away from any of that. But when it comes to some of these fundamental truths that Black families need right now in a time of crisis, that's why I said that some of those truths were not being taught from them. And sadly, they're not being taught in churches. Recent study from churches in America, 37%, think about this, 37% of churches today recently were polled as seeing the family structure, husband, wife, submissive, loving wife like Christ loved the church. That biblical viewpoint of marriage is only shared by 37% of churches today in the United States. That being said, even some of those 37% consider some of the messages that are biblical truths that are needed in marriage. That, whether we like him or not, Kevin Samuels did touch on, are considered controversial in church today, and people are not getting that. So that is why I said what I said. I wasn't saying anything else outside of that. And if you watch the entire video, that's what the message was trying to explain. And that's what I explained at the end of it. Because I said, I'm not saying he's a saint. I'm not saying he's perfect. Like, none of us are. But if I'm going to hold someone to a standard of this person's got to preach this message and deliver it the way I want it to be delivered, and no one else is delivering it on the level and the stage that they're delivering it, I think I got to look at myself and say, hey, I've made mistakes on how I've done things. You've made mistakes on how you've delivered things. With that being said, if I'm going to go there with him or anyone else, I need to also go there with myself. And that's what I see a lot of people not doing right now. And that's the pushback that I would have with the statement you made.
Which statement?
About trying to insult people and cutting them down, things like that. I'm not saying that his delivery was perfect. I don't think anyone's delivery is perfect, except Jesus's. And I'm obviously not comparing him to him.
Okay.
But I just think that we just need to be careful before we throw those things out, because people could pull back some of the things I've said and some of the things you've said and maybe say, oh, well, that's insulting. That's cutting someone down.
Okay. So may I speak now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, awesome. So I think this is a difference between me and the way that he dealt with himself. When people have come to me and said, if they've come to me and said, I think you're being a little harsh, or I think you are cutting someone down, etc., I'm open to dialogue about that. Kevin would just hang people up. Like, there was no way to do that. That's the first part. The second thing, though, is I think it's more beneficial for us to talk about, because like you said, style, we're kind of in agreement. It sounds like that he didn't always say things in the best way. My argument for that was me saying, you lost me when you insulted me. So I'm not a member of your audience. So it literally erodes the message like that. Having said that, let's go to some of the things that he said, because you talked about the church. and how the church is not, well, actually, you asked me what I felt like was a huge issue right now. And I said, I would prefer that you just say what it is you're trying to say. And so then you said, you know, can we agree that the Black family, the structure of the Black family is a huge issue that is of huge importance. And it's one of the most prevalent issues that we should be dealing with because it's what's addressing us today. That I totally agree with. That's why I run a platform called Black Marriage Movement. That's why I post Black couples. That's why I post Black love. That's why I literally have tons of different discussion topics every single day, you know, that people can weigh in on, trying to see where we are as a people, and then trying to steer discussions in an educated forum to actually get information to a large swath of people. And I use hot topics to do that. And I use, you know, psychological topics to do that. And I use marriage and dating trends and things that people are posting in order to do that. So for me, that was, you know, my idea of like a beneficial way of reaching out to a large audience and being able to, you know, teach, inform, instruct, minister, uplift, you know, cajole, and send a message of basically, we do need to get together. So that's the first part of that. The second thing is, as far as like the church not sharing, only, what was it, 37% of churches are sharing biblical values? Yeah, 37%.
Like cultural research, the cultural research.
I was just looking for the number.
And the Barna, Christian-based organization, both found 30, I think it was 37, maybe 40 at the highest percent
of churches that are actually prioritizing family values. Listen,
no, not prioritizing. Believe in them, period.
Got it. Believe in them. So clearly that's troubling. And clearly that's not what I believe. And I mean, that's unsettling. But if family values is what you want to preach, then you actually have to have the ears of both people in a family who are coming together. I think that...
what do you mean?
I mean, if I'm not going to listen to you because you're insulting me, then you can't teach me family values. Even if you have family values, I'm not going to listen to you. Here's the reality. There are a lot of people who are teaching family values today. There are people all over the internet who are teaching family values today. I teach family values today. I do not insult men. I do not insult women. I teach biblical truths and I teach science. I go live all the time. I was live 5 days a week, usually during the pandemic. And the reality is, when you're provocative and when you're pushing buttons and when you're doing certain things that don't have a lot to do with the message, you know, audiences grow very large. That's the reality of it. And so when you are just teaching fundamentally, if you want to date well, if you want to marry well, if you want to have a great relationship, these are things that you should be thinking about. There are so many pages and so many people who are doing that, but a lot of people don't want to tune in. I mean, that's the absolute reality. People would rather have someone who is provocative. They would rather have someone who is doing something in such a style that even though it might be hurting people, hey, it's entertaining. And I know a little something about entertainment because I've been working in Hollywood for 20 years. I'm a producer. So, you know, I've worked on shows. Yeah, I've worked on shows. I used to work on, I'll give you an example. I used to work on a show. I won't say the name of the show, but it was with a major network. And we would go in and interview celebs and do sort of we'd interview celebs, and then there would be a piece around it, like something fun to do with them as well. And I remember we were interviewing all of these like hip hop stars, and we were doing all of these like athletes and all of that. And I remember being at a pitch meeting and being like, okay, this is all great, but that's not all that we are contextually as a people. So could we get a few more intellectuals in here? Maybe get a couple authors in here, Black authors, or maybe get a couple of, you know, maybe get a couple gospel stars, maybe get whatever. And I just decided to, you know, change some of the narrative of the people that we were profiling. And I will be really honest, the first Black author we did, our ratings tanked. And I remember us sitting back around that table and my producer going, you know, this is what you wanted, and your audience didn't show up for you. And it was like my first lesson in, just because something has substance And just because something has more substance than something that is popular but doesn't have any substance doesn't mean people are going to eat it up. And I could share example after example of that. I remember watching, I was a huge proponent of the Oprah Winfrey Show when I grew up. She won award after award. She was #1 around the world in multiple countries, etc. She won so many Emmys that around year 7, she withdrew her name from the Emmy competition because she wanted to give somebody else a chance. Well, around year 10, she decided that she had been a little bit too tabloidy and participating in a little bit too much stuff that wasn't really that beneficial. And she changed the whole format of the Oprah Winfrey Show. And she decided she was just going to help society. She's going to do things that were informative and substantive, etc., and move away from things that were exploitative in any way. And as a result of that, her first year, her ratings dropped for a year. Do you know who took her place as #1 in the ratings? Jerry Springer. Mm-hmm. Why am I sharing that? Because I am saying just because you can draw a large audience doesn't mean that you are quality or substance or you are what we need. And I say that because that has been a huge argument that people have said, well, he drew a large audience. Well, a lot of people liked him. Well, a lot of people tuned in. A lot of people tune into a lot of different things. A lot of people slow down on the side of the road when there's an accident. That doesn't mean that there's anything substantive there that, you know, we need to be consuming. And just because there is a smaller audience in a different realm doesn't mean that there isn't quality and substance there. So, you know, in terms of that argument, I think that that needs to be said. The final thing I want to say is on context, because you said, let's talk about sort of the quality of the arguments he was making. Forget the person, but look at the content that was being put out.
The ideas.
The ideas. I think this is really important because a lot of people have come to my page and said, the reason why you disagree with him is because he's telling the truth. And you talked about the Bible. And I've had a couple of men say that he was teaching Bible. And I vehemently disagree. And I will give you 2 to 3 examples of what I'm talking about.
Let me just
I'll
clarify.
Give you 3, but go ahead. But I'll give you 3, but go ahead.
I've never said he taught Bible. I just want to clear that for everyone watching.
Not you,
said that.
Other people.
Yeah. I never said he taught Bible. I said some of the things he taught were not being taught in church that needed to be taught in church.
Okay, cool. I received that. So 3 things, for instance, because for all the people who are like, you just don't like him because he tells the truth, and women just don't want to be held accountable to the truth, I vehemently disagree with that. I don't mind truth. I mind lies, and I also mind, as I said, people who put you down, and I also mind, well, that's enough of that. Okay, so 3 things that were not truth that he taught. 1, he taught women to believe that if you were above a certain age, or if you had already had a past in any way, or if you had children, if you were a single mother, that you should not practice a biblical model of how you date and how you gain a husband. His examples of that are, if you're 35 and above, you need to share a man. Show me that in scripture. If you're 35 and above, you need to know that you're going to be cheated on by your man, and you don't need to worry about that, and that doesn't need to be a big deal to you. You should just embrace that and accept that because you're over the hill, and therefore, you just got to take what you can get. That's 1. 2 is, if you are a single mom, if you are overweight, if you are over 35, if you are all of these areas and categories that he has decided means that your value and your worth as a human being are diminished, which I'm going to say I vehemently disagree with that too. Yes, that is what he's basically saying. And
but what do you mean by basically? What do you mean basically? Basically saying that?
I'm not saying basically. Forget the basically. I'm saying if you are a single mom, if you are overweight, if you are over 35, he was saying your value is diminished as a woman. And the proof of that is he's saying, I literally have a clip where he says, you need to be giving it away. The woman calls him and says who she is and what her stats are. And he says, you need to be giving your sex away. Because she was saying, I would like to date as a virtuous woman. And he is basically saying, that's over for you. So what he's saying is, if I make a mistake in my life, I am not allowed to course correct. I'm not allowed, if I make a mistake at 20 and I become a single mom, at 25, I'm not allowed to say to a man that I'd like to court for marriage or court me for marriage and see me as a wife, I would like to actually date virtuously. I actually find that to have been a mistake. I don't think that dating and having sex with somebody that I'm not married to was a good way of doing things. So I would like to try this a different way. I would actually like to court you, or I would like for you to court me, and I would like for us to do it without sex until we get married so we don't make more mistakes, which is a biblical model. Kevin said no. Kevin says you need to be trying to give it away. Again, you literally need to be giving it away because, and this is my because, I'm saying the because is what I'm ascertaining from what he's saying, you are worthless. You have made a mistake. You don't get to be virtuous now. You've already blown it. There is no redemption for you. There is no, Christ makes all things new. There is no, oh, you made a mistake and you can learn from your mistake. And so now you can require anybody new in your life to have a new set of standards. No. You already blew it. So since you blew it, you need to keep blowing it. And whoever is willing to have sex with you, you need to have sex with them, because you need to understand you don't have anything to offer. You do not have value. You're not a valuable person. And it was the same if you were a single mother, if you were above 35, or if you were overweight.
Gotcha. Care if I respond to that?
I would love for you to respond to that.
Perfect.
I just wanted to finish my assertion.
I love
so
passion.
You knew what you're responding to. But yes, I would love for you to respond to that.
The passion. Okay. Let me go ahead and say this. As a Christian man, as someone who believes in the Bible to the best of my understanding, I do not agree with the idea that you should have sex outside of marriage. I don't care what the situation is. I do not agree that you should have sex outside of marriage. I'm putting that out there right now, okay? One thing that I think that has been, I guess, not addressed in the church is that we are not in a day and age like in the biblical days where there was arranged marriages, at least not where we live, not for the most part. There is a marketplace where people get to choose who they want to be with and who they don't want to be with. The problem that the church has failed to point out a lot of times, and to women in particular, is that there are biological things that men are wired to and that women are wired to. And there are biological wants and needs that men have when they're looking for a relationship and women have when they're looking for a relationship. Okay? So the problem is when those things aren't addressed and you're telling women in the church, hey, you can just sit here, read your Bible, and just be virtuous by our standards, and you can have whatever you want. You can have the husband that you want. You can have this type of husband. You can have this. You can have that, and it's just going to happen for you. And that's not true. The fact of the matter is, women choose who they want to marry. Men choose who they want to marry. I actually told a woman who came on the live a couple weeks ago. She said, hey, I've been hearing from dating coaches this, and this, and that I'm single, I'm over a certain age, and I have children. Should I still be expected to be celibate and not have sex? And I said, don't let anybody, even if it were me, don't let anybody give you some advice that's going to send you to hell. I don't care who it is. Even if it's me. If it's unbiblical, don't follow it. But the problem is, in the church, they don't teach women what men want, and they really don't teach men what a lot of women want. And so the mistake that a lot of people are being made are having is, I can have these characteristics and these characteristics and these characteristics and still expect to have this type of husband, this type of husband, and this type of husband. And that was the majority of his callers. If we're going to talk honestly, the majority of his callers would call in, and this is the last thing I'll say about Kevin, then I'd like to explain my thoughts, but I will just say this for the sake of the argument. The majority of the callers that called in said, hey, I want this in a man, this in a man, this in a man, this in a man, this in a man. Why don't I have that? And then he asked them questions, and he said, oh, well, because men typically want this. He did not do it in the same way that I would deliver it. But a lot of people didn't like the fact that he even pointed it out. A lot of people don't like that. And I think that if the church pointed things out, you wouldn't need someone like him to point those things out, to tell somebody that the majority of men do not want, Christian or not, do not want their woman to be overweight. Or
the majority
obese.
Of women. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I mean,
you can ask because I was going. What were you saying?
Oh, okay. I was going to say the majority of women don't want to be overweight. I am currently overweight. I'll just say I am currently overweight. I am on a diet. I have a diet doctor. I am working out. I am working on sleeping properly. I am working on lowering my stress levels. There are so many different things that add to someone being overweight. And so I think Dr. Boyce Watkins said it really, really good.
Who's that?
It's one, I'll send him to you. He's an economist.
Go ahead. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
But the point is, he said something really balanced when he was talking about Kevin. He talked about, the things that were great about him, and he talked about the things that weren't so great. And one of the things that he said wasn't so great is he was basically saying, but if you're going to make me feel bad about being overweight, I don't need you to do that. If you want to help me with my weight, then offer me something like a gym membership, or let's go walking, or let's go eat some, healthy foods, etc.
But he gave them advice to find a nutrition.
I'm saying the vitriol was damaging. I'm saying I don't need someone to point out to me that I'm overweight. I'm fully aware of it. And you have no idea what got me here. And assuming that this is just what I want, that I am not fighting it, that because I'm overweight, that I never work out, that I never eat right, etc. Making a bunch of judgments on me is hurtful and harmful, and it doesn't help anything. So I'll just wrap this up because I want to jump back to you by saying one line. My point is, you're absolutely right. Men love women who are healthy and fit and look good, and they are visually stimulated. I know all of these things. I teach all of these things, but I don't teach them in a way that also makes women feel bad about themselves while saying, we got to keep it tight. We got to get it together. We need to be visually pleasing to a man. And I also would introduce something that, I don't know, it's like foreign to him, is that all men's standards of beauty are not the same.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
That's just the reality. And so what one man would think of as like full figured, another man would think of as overweight, and vice versa. I just think, I think there's a lot of nastiness in us attacking each other that doesn't have anything to do with us actually doing what we're saying the goal is, which is bringing men and women together so that they can love one another, and so that they can understand what is attractive to one another in a manner that's actually not critical, but is addressing what the issues are.
Right. The only thing I disagree with, though, is that people are asking, why do I not have this husband that I want? And he's giving them statistically, the majority of men want this, and you don't have that. And so this is how, and so the advice would be, get a nutritionist, get a gym membership, do this, do
Totally
that.
agree.
So
totally agree.
And so that's what he would say, is what I'm saying.
But the way that he would say it was really, really insulting.
But
so he missed it.
If you call, but here's the challenge that I would give to all believers, right? I'm not advocating for evangelizing or giving out the truth in the way that he gave it. But what I will say is, if you claim to have a spirit of discernment, and you claim to have the Holy Spirit within you, you recognize the truth regardless of how it's delivered, and you're not going to say, oh, well, it missed me. Because we're responsible for, hey, if God gave us the truth, then we get the truth. How do we get it?
I disagree with that.
Okay, well,
I disagree with that.
You can disagree with that, but this is the problem. The problem is this: biblically, there are more standards where God cares more about the truth getting out than the way it was delivered. I'll give you an example. With the Bible claims that God does not celebrate the death of people who are unrepentant. God celebrates the people coming to receive the message.
Mm-hmm.
We agree with that. We're both believers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Elijah made fun of the prophets of Baal.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't the great delivery. Nehemiah was back in Jerusalem building the temple back in Israel and telling the Jews and the Israelites, hey, follow God's command. His own fellow Jews he beat up. He beat up. And that probably was not the best delivery. But it was a message that was given. And as the receiver, not as someone who's talking to the deliverer, if I'm talking to the person delivering it, I would have a different message. For the person who's receiving it, we're responsible for accepting truth. If we're starving in the middle of the desert, yes. If we're starving in the middle of the desert and someone throws a steak at us and throws a water bottle at us, we don't just say, I'm not going to eat that. I don't have to. And then God's going to say, oh, you're right. You didn't have to eat that because it was given to you in a bad way. We don't
Let
get
me
to
address
demand how
that
the
right
truth is
there.
given
Let
to
me
us.
address that right there. Let me address that right there. If I'm starving and someone throws me something, here's the difference. And this is why I totally disagree with what you're saying. If I'm starving and someone, like, I'll put it on a platter, has my medicine, right? Let's say that it's medicine. We'll go even worse than starving. We'll say, I'm going to die. Right, got it. I'm going to die if I don't get this medicine.
Right.
So you have medicine for me. You put it on a silver platter. You put the medicine right there. Let's say that it's a pill. And then you heap 3 piles of cow dung on top of the pill. You're asking me, do I want to delve into the cow dung in order to get the pill because it could save my life? And I'm looking at that and I'm going, no, I don't want that. No, let me just finish. Let me finish. And I'm looking at that and going, no, I don't want that. The problem is you're assuming this is the only place that I can get my life saved. There are 3 other people down here who are also offering me silver platters with absolutely no cow dung. I'm going to go down the street and get it from them. Because Kevin is not the only person who is offering life-saving medication regarding my truth. There are therapists, coaches, counselors, ministers, relationship experts all over social media who don't add cow dung to the medicine, so I don't have to accept it for them. And I didn't accept it from him. And I will never accept truth from someone who ridicules me, puts me down, bullies me, and says really mean things to me just because somebody's saying that's the only way you can get it. No, it ain't. I got truth over here. I got 5 people over here. They're teaching me the exact same things without the toxicity, without the bullying, without the negative. So,
I'm not claiming that. I'm not claiming in this analogy, any analogy breaks down, you can take it far enough. But I'm not claiming
But you were saying that as a Christian, I have to accept the truth from somebody who's mixing truth with a bunch of other stuff, and I don't have to.
I'm claiming that if you're a believer, one day you are going to stand before God with the cards you were dealt. Some people are going to be dealt truth on a silver platter their entire life. Some people aren't. Some people are going to be dealt truth harshly. Some people's only pastor they're ever going to come across their entire life is harsh, and they're still going to be held to the standard that everyone else is held to. They're still going to be held to the same standard. So to tell people that, hey, if the truth isn't given to you in the way that you like it, if you define it as mean, or you don't like it, or you think that it's not okay, then you don't have to accept it. That's not true. If you have the option, if you have the option, if you have the option, if you have the option,
and you're equating the two as if they're the same thing, and they're not. I'll let you finish. I'll let you finish.
If you have choices, of course, take your choice. But if I would argue this, if those people were actually telling them the truth, why would they even have to call in on his show?
They didn't know those people. I'm talking about me.
And then if you have options, then I would say, great. I never claimed you had to listen to him.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You basically, yes, you did. You basically just, yes, you did.
I said,
if I may, yes, you did.
Then let me say this. Then let me clarify. Let me clarify. I'll clarify. I'm going to clarify that.
You just built a case.
This is what I'm going to clarify.
Clarify, but do it after I say this. Let me say one thing and then you can clarify. Let me say one thing and then you can clarify.
I'm going to clarify really quick. if I said, and if it was understood that my intention was saying, you have to take Kevin Samuel's advice. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. You don't get to choose how truth is given to you all the time.
Sure,
God may only send this person to tell you the
sure
truth that no one else will tell you, and you are responsible for receiving that, and it's not always going to be on a silver platter. And as believers, we need to be able to recognize truth when it's spoken so we can chew the meat and spit out the bones.
If you insult me, I'm not going to listen to you. And I'm not talking about you.
Right.
I'm saying if a teacher insults me, I'm not going to listen. If a teacher is abusive, is dehumanizing, is degrading, I'm not going to listen to him. We live in the information age. What that means is from our phones, our computers, I'm talking to you on an iPad. I got 2 iPads in front of me. I got 2 computers in front of me. There is so much free information on here. I don't have to listen to somebody who brings their version of truth, by the way, because he doesn't tell the truth, because I'm over 35, and guess what? I'm still valuable, and guess what? My friends left and right are getting married. That's not even existent in his world. So I don't have to listen to somebody, and that has nothing to do with God, nothing. So I vehemently disagree with, well, if you're not willing to listen to truth as this person says it, then that means you're not going to get the truth. I'm saying it.
Okay, just I want to clarify for everybody.
Okay,
listening.
so then let me finish like I let you finish.
But just clarify for everyone that's listening.
No, you didn't let me clarify. I was trying to clarify and you wanted to get your stuff out. So if the rules are let's respect each other, then let me finish too.
Right, but so, you called me out on that point. I made sure I clarified.
Are you gonna let me finish, or are you gonna insist on interrupting me? You told me you didn't like interruptions.
In the same way, if there's something that you need to clarify, I can tell you to clarify it too, just like you did for me. It's mutual.
You done?
Yes, I'm just saying. If you received it, you need to clarify. If you get to clarify things that I said that may be about you that's incorrect, I get to clarify the same thing. You just did that for me. I'm doing it for you. I just wanted you to clarify for everyone that I was not saying that. Because when you say you, it sounds as if you're talking to me.
Okay. So to IO2 Jacobs, I didn't interrupt him. He interrupted me.
Don't worry about the comments. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get something out. Having said that, I don't even remember what I was going to say. That's why I wanted to get it out. I have no idea what I was going to say.
You were talking about you didn't have to receive the truth from this person, and it doesn't matter who. Like if you have an option, basically you can choose who you can receive the truth from.
Yeah, I'm saying, because you went on, and please don't interrupt me when I say what I'm about to say. You went on. I was trying to say something about truth, and you basically conflated, and you said something about, at the end of your life, you're going to have to give a testament to God, and if it wasn't served on a silver platter, if you say, I didn't take it because it wasn't served on a silver platter, that you're wrong for that. And I'm saying, like, you're misconflating what I'm even saying to begin with. It's not about the platter. It's about the cow dung. It's also about my options. And yes, every day people make decisions because we have options of who we are and aren't going to listen to. And what a lot of Kevin's followers would do is they would say, if you're not willing to take the cow dung, then that means you're not willing to take the truth. And that is what I vehemently disagree with. What they're really saying is, let me bully you in order to share with you whatever I feel like sharing with you, because I don't feel like learning how to be kind in my delivery. I don't feel like learning how to be gentle in my delivery. I don't feel like learning how to say things in a manner that is actually appealing to you. I don't feel like, to the Jews I became a Jew, to the Greek I became a Greek. I don't feel like that. I don't feel like a kind word turns away wrath. I don't feel like that. I don't feel like being held accountable to the scriptures that say, it's a sin for me to give offense and not just for someone to take offense. I don't feel like taking any of that into it. What I feel like is I am so entitled because I have this truth that I want to share with you, and it is so valuable that I don't care if I shove it down your throat you need to just accept it. And if you're not willing to, that means you're not willing to accept truth. That is a con. It is a manipulation. It is blatantly untrue, and I'm calling it out. And so, as I said, number one, that's wrong. Number two, we are in the information age, and so there are so many different places where you can get truth. There are so many different churches online. I would say maybe 2/3 of the world's churches are online. So there's a ton of places where you can get the truth. But when people want to bully and when people want to have an agenda, they will make that agenda mean anything. Having said that, another thing that is not a truth, it's another example of him not sharing truths, and it is dangerous and it is unbiblical, is the last video that I saw of him was a woman who called in, and she was asking if she was a single mom, and she was talking about dating, and she's one of the people he said you need to be trying to give it away because she was above 35 and she was a single mom.
We agree that that's wrong.
Okay. She was fit, but still, 2 out of 3, so you're not worth anything. So he was like, you need to be throwing your stuff away, like giving it to him, dating with anybody who's, interested, that type of thing. Okay, giving your sex. The next thing he said in that same call was, if your daughter accused your new husband of molestation, who would you believe? And she said, I would believe my daughter. If my daughter is saying that my new man touched her, then that's something that I need to absolutely take seriously and look into. And I need to, trust my daughter. And Kevin said, no. Not only did he say no, he then looked at the men in the audience, or addressed the men in the audience, and basically said, see, this is why you don't need to date single mothers. And I'm going, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you making the case that a little girl
I already agreed that was wrong.
who is accusing a man of touching her should now not believed, and your sole basis for that is because he's a man and he's your husband, so you should believe your husband over your child no matter what? And if you are unwilling to take this truth with cow dung on a platter, then fellas, don't date single moms, because this is what you're going to be up against. I literally am like, there are so many problematic things in his thinking and his mindsets and in what he shared that there is no value, I would argue, in that. In addition, in the same call,
you're saying there is no value in what? In just that statement?
There's no value in anything that he's saying in this call. In addition to that, okay. If I may finish.
Go ahead.
In addition to that, in the same call, he also said, if this husband that you're with, if he's making a certain amount of money, how would you feel if he had another woman? How would you feel if he was exercising his options? And I'm saying exercising his options, admittedly mixing this with other calls that I've heard him, where he's like, men of means, high value men who make a lot of money, do not cheat. They exercise their options. That is unbiblical. That is a lie, not a truth. And it is something that is terrorizing for any woman who actually loves her man, but you all think that it's valuable.
That's sex outside of marriage, right?
That's sex outside of marriage,
okay,
yeah.
Cool. We're on the same page there.
Awesome. You're still interrupting me, though, and you asked me not to do that.
I'm just giving a thumbs up.
Okay. That's why I don't like that, because then I can't remember what I was going to say. My point is that I literally don't even remember what my point was.
Okay, so the things you're saying that were blatantly biblically wrong, I agree with you on. The things we seem to disagree on is the fact that if a woman is truly desperate and asking, why can I not find this type of husband? And she is overweight, clinically obese.
This woman wasn't clinically obese.
Just that alone, she's cutting her chances down, and the church won't say that. And the church is supposed to be the lighthouse of truth in this world. And if she can't find it there, and she's so desperate to go to someone like Kevin Samuels, then we're not doing our job as the church to let them know this is what men desire, generally speaking, in a wife. This is how men are wired. In the same way with men.
Okay, so the woman that I was talking about wasn't clinically obese. So everything that he said to me, my point in sharing that is, and that was a full call, no clips, is there was nothing valuable in that call. Nothing.
I don't agree that every
that's
call
fine.
is valuable.
If I may finish. Thank you. There was nothing valuable in that call. That call gave that woman who came to him for help really, really, really bad advice. And it wasn't the truth that a lot of his followers keep saying. Women don't like truth, that's why they don't like him. And they don't like accountability, that's why they don't like him. No, I would say I don't like untruths. I don't like men telling me that I am not valuable as a single mom. I don't like men telling me that I should trust a new man over my child if my child says molestation. And I'm not even saying there's no possibility that a child would lie. I'm saying what he was saying was trust your man above the child just because he's your man, and that is not of value. In addition to that, I am also saying, that the accountability factor, there isn't one. And what was super disturbing on the end of the call was him saying, well, if he makes a lot of money, are you willing to share him? Are you willing to, to allow him to exercise his options? And unfortunately, because I think of where she's been and what she's been listening to and thinking he's an expert and thinking, well, he knows what men want and what they think, etc. She actually, by the end of the call, was going, yes, I would not mind if he cheated on me, and I would not mind if I had to share him. I would be open and willing to do that. And I think the audience en masse agrees with her and thinks that that's great because that's what they're agreeing with him. So for me, I think, my bottom lines on this are that the things that people say that we have issues with when people have issues with this man are not the things that we have issues with. I don't have an issue with truth. I receive truth from a lot of different sources and from a lot of different teachers across a lot of different spectrums, whether they be, as I said, teachers, preachers, therapists, counselors, psychologists, etc. A lot of them teach a lot of different truths, and I actually am grateful to learn more and more because I don't think that I know everything, and I don't think that I'm, the expert in anything. So I'm constantly learning, etc. But I don't choose to learn from people who are mean or bullying or dehumanizing, or who I watch put other people that are in their care being vulnerable and open, and they're supposed to be teaching them. I don't choose to watch people like that. When they put those people down, for me, it's not entertaining. It's pretty distressing.
Right. No, I can respect that. I just and I just want to say this: I'm not defending every call he made, and there are probably calls like that call. I've never seen it. If it happened, I believe you. I don't agree with it. If that's what was said, I don't agree with that. The ideas, like I said, that I think are the issue is first. A lot of these women that were seeking this advice, first of all, we're talking about outside of biblical context. They didn't care a lot of them didn't care whether he's Christian or not. It was just like a check mark of he's got to be 6'2", he's got to be black, he's got to be this, Christian's good too, and money. All those things were in the same category. As believers like you and I, we're going to operate in a different realm. We're going to operate in the church. And so some of those topics should not even be considered. We know that I don't agree with, like I said, everything that was said or even every single call. But like I said, the point that I think we disagree on is this. The issue that I have is that the truth, having truth gives the opportunity for people to be free. The truth sets you free. Jesus said that. He sets us free salvation-wise, but even truth in a lot of things. If you know what needs to happen, you can be set free. When it comes to the obesity thing, or when it comes to the clinically obese thing, when it comes to the single motherhood thing, or it comes to a guy without a job thing, there are going to be biological things that men do not want and women do not want. Generally speaking, whether they're a believer or not, and it's not going to be attractive to them. And the fact that people are not understanding that is a problem. And people will say, oh, well, I'll take truth if it's given the right way. Well, some people, it's like, okay, well, they're still in that situation. If they already knew that, calling in, hey, my issue is I'm overweight. Well, if they already knew that and they have someone telling them that, why would they even ask what the issue is if they already know that's the issue? The point that I'm making is I think that sometimes it's not being taught well enough in certain places. And because of that, you open the door for people like him. You open the door for the world to give advice. And there's going to be some good advice maybe, but the good advice should always be coming from the church. And that's why I think the church dropped the ball. And I don't put the blame on the world, but I put the blame on the church for dropping the ball and saying, hey, we need to get real about this stuff. And we don't need to sugarcoat everything because we are in a position of crisis. I'm not saying, hey, you hide the medicine where they can't find it. But I'm also not saying, hey, it's sugarcoated right here for you. Because like I said, even churches, the 37% or 40% that believes in the biblical roles of marriage, even considers conversations about submission of wives as controversial, when that's just the truth. And so when we can't talk about that, or we can't talk about homosexuality being a sin, we can't talk about all those things without 15 minutes of pandering and saying, well, let me let you know, I've got a bunch of gay friends. I love gay people. Just say what the book says. Let the book speak for itself. Let the Holy Spirit speak for itself. Just like the parable of the sower with the seeds. He didn't say, well, some of these seeds he trickled with a little bit of fertilizer so they'd grow. It was the responsibility of the believer to accept the seed. Now, as the person giving the messenger, I'm not going to advise someone to try to make it as harsh as possible. But in the same way, I don't think that we need to in any way change the truth to make it more comfortable or accepting for people, because I'll let you know this. Jesus said it. It's written all throughout the Bible. People will claim they won't accept it because they don't like the way it's given, when in reality, the same percentage will still disagree even when it was Jesus saying it. So people generally do not like the truth. I'm not defending people that say things like what you said about the Kevin Samuels thing just there. But when we're talking about people, flawed human beings, no matter how good the truth can be given, we will still choose to reject it most times because we have a sinful nature. And that's what Jesus said. That's what the Bible said. And so the issue of, man, I don't really know how to make this message about, hey, ladies, the majority of men in this group are going to be physically attracted to someone who's in shape. If you are clinically obese, we've got a trainer here for you. You need to go talk to them, set that up, and we'll get that set up. Men, if you're living at your mom's basement and you're 35, you need to go get a job. We've got a job fair across the street. We're going to give them solutions as well. But there are going to be people in the audience that say, I can't believe they said that. That offended me. That's mean. And when you judge it based on mean, or I think that this person has done that, I think their intention was this, you're basing it off of subjectivity, and anyone can use that same argument to say, I think it was mean because of this. I think it was mean because I didn't like that. And when you say, I feel like, if someone is insulting me, I'm not going to accept the truth, that's a problem. And as believers who have the spirit to recognize truth in a flawed world, which will never be delivered perfectly, and sometimes the only way a specific truth may be delivered in your lifetime, for anyone watching, may be under that pile of junk. It may be on a silver platter, it may be sugared, but it's our responsibility to find the truth and accept it. And we should recognize it if we have the Holy Spirit within us. It's our responsibility. Do we agree on that?
I disagree with certain points of it. No. So I'll share what I mean. I had a mother who was very much like my way or the highway. and she was blatantly abusive. She did not mean to be. She was raised to be. There are a lot of reasons for her being that way. And she didn't know better in certain ways. But there were certain things that she was very, very hard on that were very easy for her. And because they were easy for her, she had zero tolerance for anyone else struggling in those areas. And she was abusive to me mentally and emotionally in those areas. And later on, when I'm no longer under her influence, she was abusive to other people around her. She was also someone who was a huge influencer in her community, very well respected, very well known, and had a great deal of influence with a lot of young people because of what she did. And she trained them in a lot of different areas, and she was very good at it and very well known for it. And I had a conversation with my mother, maybe, I don't know, around 30, when I was achieving in the areas that she actually had no grace for. So I wasn't in a space where well, you're saying this because you're not winning in those areas. No, I'm winning in this area, and I'm still telling you, right, the way that you are sharing with me is abusive. The way that you are sharing with me is toxic. The things that you are saying to me, and you're basically saying, if I don't do it your way, that I don't want it, that I don't care about the truth, and that it literally reminds me of what Kevin would say. Well, then you're going to die alone with cats, etc. And I'm going, no, I'm not going to die alone. I'm actually going to take the advice from this person over here who knows how to share with me in a way that doesn't make me feel like jumping off of a building. Right. Because there's so much abuse in the way that you are saying something. I think, particularly in the Black community, that we are so used to harshness and we are so used to hearing really hard lessons and abuse being wrapped in, well, I'm doing this because I love you. Well, I'm doing this because, this is the way for you to get it. And then we come out of abuse and say, that was the best way for me to do it. And I needed that. I needed a whooping, or I needed someone to beat me, or I needed someone to talk to me like that, or I needed someone to degrade me, or I needed whatever, because, I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't that. Well, you might actually be who you are today, but without all of the things that you're now having to overcome in terms of incredibly deep wounding, because of the way that things were done to you. And so I'm saying, no, I'm still on an absolute no. I don't believe in abusing people in order to get them a message. I don't believe it's necessary. I will always say it's abuse. I will always say it's toxic. I will always say it's bullying. And I think it's a total manipulation and a con to say, if you don't receive it the way that I am giving it to you, that means you don't want it and you have a problem with truth. No, I have a problem with the way that you deliver, because you're foul, and you need to learn some things. So when I had this conversation with my mother, I shared with her the effects of her words on me when I was in a position where I was vulnerable and I was young and I didn't have a voice and I'm not paying my own bills because I'm a child and I'm under you. And so I'm susceptible to whatever it is that you choose to do that you think is right, but I'm telling you the reality of how it affected me. And I told my mom, who, immediately was like, wow, I didn't realize, this, and that, and that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm telling you the effects of this. And eventually, she felt bad, but she also was like, well, I was just trying to teach you the truth. And I told her, I said, here's the thing. You're going to teach. People look up to you. There are tons of kids who come to you all day long, and you have an incredible influence on them. And at the end of the day, you're going to do whatever you want to do. But I just wanted to let you know, as someone who was under you, who was harmed by what you did, that you have a choice to say things in a way that you can deliver the truth without the harm, or you have a right to keep on doing what you're doing and say, whatever, I can do it this way. And if they want the truth, they'll get it. And if they want, if they want to learn, they'll get it. And if they're serious about whatever, then they'll take it the way that I'm saying it. And she changed. And that's all that I'm saying. I'm saying I am communicating for people who have been mishandled by teachers who were abusive. And at the end of the day, you care about it or you don't, because you're going to keep doing whatever it is that you want, and you're going to justify it if you want to. But I'm telling you, I didn't need to learn that way. I could have learned without that. And if I feel that way, I know there's a lot of other people who feel that way too. And in the same way that I've been clear about, like, I care about the men in Kevin's audience who felt like they were not being heard. Mm-hmm. And I have said several times and had several lives where I'm like, I'm actually interested in hearing what it was about their hearts that were not heard, because I think that that's important. Mm-hmm. I would hope that people would think that, when I tell you what I can and I cannot take in terms of abusive, toxic, mean ways of communicating to me that I feel disrespected by and dishonored by, that you would listen to that would be important to you. But if it's not, it's a cruel world, and that's what we live in. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guess my question is, in a nutshell, really quick, like, what would you define as abusive?
Bullying, dehumanizing. I come to you and I say something and you put my face in the dirt instead of just giving me the answer. I'll give you an example. I remember my brother was dating a cheerleader. She had a perfect body. I was struggling with my weight. Let's say maybe I'm 20 pounds overweight at the time. And I remember I didn't know how to eat. So I had no idea how to eat. I didn't know anything about diet. Right. And so I come to her and I'm like, hey, how do you eat? And like, what do you eat? And like, what do you do in order to have like a body like that? And what she said was, well, what I don't do is eat. And she pointed to what I was eating right then. Mm. I got up from the table. I didn't eat that anymore. I came back later on that night. I cut up an apple. I ate 2-3 slices. And then my stepfather made fun of me for eating slices of apple because I modified. I'm not eating, fried chicken and potatoes. So now I'm eating what I know to eat. I'm like 12 years old. It's an apple. And that's not good enough either. And I'm being made fun of no matter what I do. But nobody is actually saying, hey, Denai, if you'd like to lose some weight, here's some things that you could do. Right. I don't need you to tease me. Right. I don't need you to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'm clearly doing things wrong. I'm saying that, and I'm reaching out, and I'm asking for help, and people are being mean to me. How is that beneficial?
Right. And to that story that you gave, I completely agree, because how are you going to know something if you've never been taught it? Right? Like, how can you know, hey, this is what I'm supposed to do if no one ever taught you?
Right. And what I'm saying is there are a lot of people who are trying to teach, but they're teaching in the same way. Right. They're making fun of people. They're not just saying, oh, okay, if you want to learn, here's what you do. You can hire a trainer. Here are some recipes. Here are some actual blogs you can follow that are full of healthy eating. Here's a class that you can join where there's actually healthy eating methods, and they're actually going to give you a ton of recipes that you can have so you can have some variety in your stuff. Here's a grocery shopping list. Here are a list of trainers. Some of them are super expensive. Some of them are mid-level. And then some of them are actually free. Here's a YouTube channel you can follow if you don't have the money. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we're not focusing on what we actually need. We're focused on what we don't need. And it's not helpful.
So I 100% agree with you on there. And I think the way that I'm focused on, if I were to focus the message on the messenger right now, I would say, hey, don't, tell this person, make fun of them. What's that going to do? It doesn't help them. Don't make fun of them. Don't do this. Don't do that. Show them how to accomplish this goal. If you have a problem with where they're at, then say, hey, you're here. This is how you get here. There's no point in telling someone, this is your problem, but I'm going to walk away. I'm not going to tell you how to get there. Tell them how to get there. The only the message that I would have for the receiver, though, is that many times, and obviously not in the case for the story that you shared, but many times people will, and they will not like the fact that this is going on. They don't want to do these things. Many people don't want to do this, to walk the path to get here. And when they're told that, they get angry and they get upset. And just like you said, let me ask you this. Why did you say to us or to your mom, I don't know if you said this literally, but you said it to us. Why did you say you can take it or not? Why would she not?
Because her insistence, like it sounds like you're coming from, and where all of the people who have agreed with Kevin, I have found, so that's me saying, there's this whole segment of people who say, unless you take what I am giving you, you don't want that. So there are people who insist. The reason I told my mom you could take it or leave it is because through my whole childhood, she's like, if you don't do it my way, then you don't want it. That's absolutely not true.
Right.
So I'm saying she can insist on that. The way that you're insisting, hey, this is what I believe and this is just the way it is. She could insist on that too. Everybody has a free will. I'm saying it was akin to Kevin saying, you know, if you don't do it my way, you're going to die alone. And not only are you going to die alone, he's like making fun of it. And there's like, I don't know, there's like a whole audience of people who are laughing at it. And I'm like, this is disgusting.
Right.
It's disgusting. She came to you for help. She didn't come to you for you to make fun of her and for you to tell her she's going to die alone.
My question
I don't know how that's helpful.
Right.
But to answer your question was, why did I ask my mom? Why did I say you could take it or leave it? I said you could take it or leave it because I knew she had a free will.
Exactly. In the same way, no matter how you put things up, people can still reject it. And some people's reason for rejecting
they can, but you either make an effort or you don't.
Some people's reason, but who are you to judge if someone's making an effort or not? What if that's the best?
Who are you to judge whether or not I take it as abuse or not?
What if that's the best they can do? That's what.
If that's the best they can do, sometimes your best is not good enough, which is why I said I will go elsewhere. Cool. That's not that your best is not good enough.
Some people don't have
But if I'm telling you, here's the thing, because you said, what if your best is not good enough? If I tell you, here is what I need, and you say, no, I'm not willing to learn how to do that, then that's on you. So cool. I'll go over here and I'll get my messages over here and you can continue to do your best, which is not good enough for me. It doesn't work for me. Your way of talking to me makes me want to die.
But sadly, everybody is not as privileged
makes me want to live. I'm going to go toward living.
Everybody is not as privileged as you to have the choice of everything. Everyone doesn't know about the resources.
Everybody doesn't have this?
Everybody does not.
93% of the world has this. 93% of the world has this.
If I wouldn't say 93% of the entire world.
I'm going based on African numbers. I'm going based on African numbers. I'm going based on African numbers. That's the reason why I said that, because I have done research actually. It doesn't even matter. Go ahead.
That's beside the point. I think that you're asserting the fact that because you have these options, everyone else has these options too. And that's not true. That's the same argument people make that say, oh, well, black people should just pull themselves up from the bootstraps. They'll be fine. Everyone does not have the same options that you may have. Everyone doesn't have the same knowledge you may have to know, oh, this stuff is out there. There are trainers out there that will train me for free. There are YouTube videos I can watch. Everybody doesn't know that. Some people their only option for getting the truth is it may be an uncomfortable way. That's some people's only option. The thing that I'm saying is this. If you recognize truth, it's so rare in today's world to get it, especially in the Western world, because more people are worried about hurting your feelings than hurting your eternity or hurting your life long term. And so more people would rather comfort you and give you a drug while you're dying of cancer rather than give you chemotherapy that hurts you and puts pain in your body and makes you go bald to save you. There are people that would rather do that. And so my message to people is when you receive truth, when you recognize there is the truth, take as much of the truth as you can. And when you recognize whether or not somebody is being malicious or not, recognize that all things work together for the good of those called according to his purpose. Just like Jesus, they put King of the Jews over his crucifix to mock him. And the thief on the cross recognized him as the King of the Jews. Just because the world may give you something that you didn't like in a certain way, God can still work that and give you the truth in it. You can still accept the truth that God has hidden within there. You are not, and here's the other thing, we're not entitled to receive truth the way we want to if you don't have the options. We're not entitled to demand God, I want you to reveal this truth about me through someone that I like or someone that cares about me. These other things. That's not always going to happen. Everybody is not in that situation. And I think it's dangerous to tell people, especially women, that really want answers and really want the truth. The ones that are on your channel, that's great. You're giving them truth. You're giving them in a certain way. But there are some people that don't have that option. And to say that, oh, well, everyone's got iPads, iPhones, all these other kinds of things, and they know to look up trainers, know to look at this. If that's the truth, why aren't they there? Why aren't they making any progress to where they want to be? Why are they stuck? Why are they stuck having to go to someone like a Kevin Samuels? Why are they stuck having to go to these people that are giving this toxic advice? If there's plenty of options out there, why? So if you receive truth, you need to take it as much as you can, because it's rare in this world. It's rare that someone's not going to sugarcoat it down and put a lot of sugar in there, put a lot of flour in there, and feed it to you, telling you it's going to make you full. You've got to accept it the best you can get, especially today. Because you say it's the information age, I would say it's the misinformation.
You said the best you can get. Kevin is not the best I can get, and Kevin didn't always tell the truth.
I'm not talking to you, and I'm not talking about Kevin. I'm saying anyone who you receive some truth from, you need to take it and cherish it, because it's so rare today. I'm not saying you have to learn these principles from Kevin Samuels. I'm saying if you don't have any options of whatever it is, you need to receive as much as you can, because sadly, not even churches are revealing the truth to you anymore. That's my point.
Okay.
And if that's the only option people had out of desperation, then we as a church and us both need to step up and start revealing those truths so that people can accomplish those things.
Talk about the truth on a daily basis. I share truth on a daily basis.
That's good. We can always improve. I can, you can. We can always improve.
I absolutely said that a little while ago. I absolutely said that a little while ago. I talked about not knowing everything, and so what's the word? What do you call it? Basically becoming a subscriber to a lot of people that I admire and I respect and who teach me things. So, I mean, I'm a truth seeker in my life, always have been. I'm a nerd, self-proclaimed, and I love being a nerd. And so knowledge and wisdom are things that I seek on a regular basis. And I think that's also the reason why I am so vehemently for finding teachers that speak to you. And that doesn't mean that they water down the truth. It means that they don't poop it down. So there's a difference. So I love learning. I love sharing the truths that I learn, which is why I go live on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. As challenging as this live has been, I've actually enjoyed it as well, because I think having difficult conversations is necessary, and hearing different perspectives and being able to be respectful of one another, which I think you and I have both tried very hard to do, and I think we've done a good job of doing, because we stand on polar opposites of issues, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like you, I don't 100% agree with anyone, because I don't believe in groupthink, and I don't require anyone to believe in me 100% and what I say. When I go live, I let my audience know what my background is, what my biblical worldview is, what my education is, and I let them know I have 2 rules. I ask that they please refrain from using profanity and that they respect one another, that they respect me, that they respect any guests that I have, and that they respect one another in the comments. The reason that I do that is because I think that one of the horrible things about where we are right now and everyone having access to this is, for the most part, at least 90% of the world's population having access to this, is that everyone can say whatever they want to. And from the anonymity of a keyboard and a screen, people do. And they create profiles where there is no profile and there's no name and there's no, no identifying characteristics. And then they feel free to say all kinds of mean things that don't add to having a really safe community where you can have incredible conversations and everybody can learn from one another, even when they have differing perspectives. And I didn't want that. I wanted to have, differing perspectives, but have them be shared in such a way where we could actually hear one another instead of just denigrating one another, putting each other down, etc. So for me, I think everybody has things, even in Christ, that are important to them. An example of that is, when God gave Moses the 10 commandments, they were 10 commandments. By the time Jesus came back, it was over 600 laws. Why? Because everybody had an idea of what they thought was really important, and whatever was important to them, they added it in and made it a law and made it for everybody. And so, that's just kind of human nature. For me, I have a sensitive spirit. I have a sweet spirit. God made me that way. It's not a flaw. It's not a weakness. It's not something I have to get over. It's something that I embrace and I love in the way that God loves me because he made me perfectly. And I'm super grateful about that. I am then concerned with people who are seeking truth, who are seeking wisdom, who are seeking to learn lessons, but are seeking to do so in a manner that's actually good for them and that isn't abusive, that doesn't add abuse into it. There are people in our population who feel like that's impossible. They genuinely believe in order for you to learn, it has to be hard, it has to be abrasive, it has to be brutal, it has to be straight no chaser, and straight no chaser always means just accept it the way that it is no matter what, and there's nothing to that. When the truth is, there are beautiful, beautiful examples, even in scripture, of my God sharing things with people in ways that they could take them. An example, you mentioned Elisha before, and the 400, prophets of Baal that he was making fun of. What I love about that story is he has this huge conquering moment where the fire of God falls down, and he's, yay, conquering hero. And then as soon as he has that huge conquering moment, he comes down off the mountain and he's depressed.
Right.
He's totally depressed. He literally despairs unto his life, scripture says, right? So a huge moment. And then all of a sudden he's like, what the heck is wrong with me? And I am no better than my fathers. And all of it was just because Jezebel said, by this time tomorrow, I'm going to have your head on a platter because you messed up my prophets.
Right.
Okay. How does God deal with him? This is what I mean. This is the whole point of me sharing that story. Mm-hmm. Does he say, get up from there? You're stupid. You're being dumb. You're not listening. You're a prophet. You're supposed to know who you are. Does he give him a hard truth, brutal truth?
Well,
let's
see what chapter and verse is that?
I don't remember. So you find it and I'll tell the story.
I'll find it real quick.
So he literally is like, it's in the Old Testament though. So he doesn't give him a hard truth. He doesn't, brutalize him. He doesn't say a bunch of really mean things to him. What he does is says, go to sleep. And so Elijah goes to sleep. And then he wakes him up and he says, get up. And he's like, eat. And so he feeds him with the ravens. And then he says, go back to sleep. And then he says, wake up. And then when he's done, he whispers to him a truth that gives Elijah peace, tranquility, comfort, love, makes him feel not alone. And all of these are things that I'm seeing people basically saying are weakness. And they're not weakness. They're things that all of us need. He needed a nap. He needed some food. He needed to rest. He needed God to speak to him softly and sweetly. He didn't need him to roar at him or to be mean to him, etc., etc., etc. Someone said 1 Kings 19:12.
Yeah.
So my point is, you know, even in scripture, we tend to pick out the things that speak to us as individuals. We don't tend to pick out the things that speak to other people. We identify with things that we need. I know that I do. And I know that the God that I serve is not just mean. He's also a God of love. He's also the breasted one. He's also the comforter. He's also the God who sees me. He's also the lifter of my head and the keeper of my peace. There are so many things that he is that I take comfort in. And that's where I'm leaning. But for everybody who wants it the other way, they can take it that way. I just don't have any desire to do that. And I don't have anything to prove to anybody just so that, you know, because we have this thing in the Black community of like taking it. Like, I need to take it, you know, and I'm weak if I can't take it. Nah, I don't need to.
But
I don't need to.
Yeah. So let's just read that section that you read. So
Christopher, I am not insulting the host.
Yeah.
So you can stop saying things.
Don't
like
worry.
that.
Don't worry about the comments.
I'm just like, that's ridiculous.
So I'll just skip down to the bottom. Elijah was afraid, blah, 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 blah. And he said, I've had enough, Lord. He said, take my life. I am better to be with my ancestors. Then he laid down under the tree, fell asleep. All at once, an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. He looked around, and there over his head was a cake of bread baked over hot coals. He ate and drank, and they lay down, and then laid down again. The angel of the Lord came back a second time and said, get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank. Strengthened by that food, he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached this place, the mountain of God. I'm probably going to mispronounce it, so I'm not going to say it. There, he went into a cave and spent the night. And then the Lord said, what are you doing here, Elijah? And then Elijah gave a big thing, and God said, go out and do this. So that's the verse. That's what she was quoting. I think that it's important to not do what she said that a lot of people do. We don't need to pick out things that fit us on how we see God. We don't need to pick out things on how other people see God. We need to pick out things on how God reveals himself. We can't say, oh, I prefer the lamb side of God, so if you like the lion side, that's on you. We need to accept God for how he reveals himself in Scripture, not how we like that he reveals himself in Scripture. And so my only question to you is, when you kind of made your last few statements, you said that we were on polar opposites, something. I don't disagree with what you're saying. If people have options that they can have both, take both. Some people are not in the option where they can get truth handed to them the way they would prefer. That's all I'm saying. I'm just asking, do you agree that?
I don't agree with that.
So you don't think
I'm with you. I think you're saying something different than what I'm saying, and I don't agree with the way that you're categorizing what I'm saying.
What am I saying?
I don't know. There was a lot in there where I was like, well, no, that's not it, and that's not it. What I know is that when you're speaking, I'm not like, yeah, that's it. In other words, yes, I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with how you're saying it. It sounded like you said something along the lines of, I'm picking and choosing how I want to see God.
No, I was saying that you were saying some people do that, and we can't do that.
Okay, well, who does that? Because you and me are talking. So
I know, but you just said earlier. Look, I was just pointing out the fact that you said, and I was agreeing with you. You said sometimes we read the Bible, we pick out stories that reflect us, and then we ignore the ones that reflect
no, not sometimes. Always.
Okay.
Always. What I'm saying is, so, well, let me finish that since you asked. Let me say it. I'm saying when we read the Bible, we read it from our perspective, every individual. And what is important to us is highlighted in the text. And what we resonate with becomes definitive in our lives and makes an impression on us. And it's how we resonate with the text. And this is universal. I'm saying everybody does this. I'm not saying I'm the only person who does this. I'm saying everybody does this. I've watched pastors do this in church all day long. They will study. They will find something that resonates with them. That is the part of the message that they want to talk about. They will put that up to God. If God agrees, then that is what they lean with. And then that's what they teach from. And their perspective, just like any other teacher, becomes what they found to be valuable, what they felt like the body needed to use, what they felt like we were going through at that time, and what they felt like would be useful.
Right.
Do you disagree with that?
I'm saying that like when we read the Bible, at least my opinion, I think that you're right that everyone has the like the pulling to do that, to read what I want out of it, or what I get out of it, or what resonates with me, etc. I think that for every believer, we need to grow closer and closer to the point of emptying ourselves and not reading anything that resonates just to me, but rather see, okay, what is God just saying about himself?
Do you think those two things are in opposition?
Huh?
Do you think those two things are in opposition?
I think they can be. If someone takes it to a certain point, I'm not saying. All I'm saying is I'm getting off topic. All I was saying was that that we don't need to. For anyone watching, obviously you weren't saying that, I guess, from what you explained.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't need to pick what parts of God we prefer to like view him as, but rather take everything that he reveals himself as the just judge, as the knight with the sword, as the vengeful one, and as the loving father. All of that together, and it should all equally be beautiful. None of us are perfect, so we don't always see him that way, but that's what we should try to do. The question I was going to ask earlier, that you had mentioned that you don't receive things a certain way, and that's how God made you, and that's perfectly fine. Am I misquoting that at all?
That I don't receive things a certain way? Yes. If you are brutal in the way that you need to talk to people, you're a bully, and I'm not going to listen to you. I don't have to. So
the only problem with that is, like, would you say that brutal is a subjective word?
Probably. And okay. I would say that every individual has a right to decide what works for them and what doesn't. If you tell me my boundary around the way that I need to be talked to is this, and these are my reasons, or not even these are my reasons, then if I care about you at all as a human, I'm going to respect that.
Right.
If on the other hand, I don't care about you as a human, and I feel entitled to be able to go around the world talking the way that I talk, and I feel like everybody needs to listen to me, and I need to put my values and my standards onto other people, then I'm not going to listen to that. And right. I'm going to turn a lot of people off.
The only problem with that thinking is that if that's the advice that you're giving somebody, it's like, hey, if you feel this way based on what they tell you, and you feel like it's bullying, it's bullying. There's a lot of people that feel that certain things are mean. Let me ask you a question. Why does the majority of the world reject Jesus and reject the truth?
I don't know.
Okay. The Bible says because they love the darkness and they don't like the light. Second Timothy, 1 Timothy says, and I'll pull it up if we need to pull it up and quote it, but says that people chase what they like. Mm-hmm. And they won't put up with sound doctrine. They won't put up with it because it's truth. And I am not denying the fact that there are some people that are abusive, and that I'm not denying church hurt. Church hurt is a real thing. Church hurt is 100% a real thing. When I say church hurt, I mean when pastors.
I know what church hurt is, but I'm asking if you really think it's a real thing.
100%. But what I think is extremely arrogant is for somebody to say, wow, well, you're not up to the standard that God calls you to be as a teacher, and you're not up to the standard. I'm the only one that gets grace and gets to be a work in progress. you're not up to it, and you're not teaching right, so I don't have to receive any of the truth that God may have given you to give me. That's arrogant.
Who's saying that?
You just
are you under
that
the impression that that's, are you under the impression, no, direct question. Are you under the impression that that's my standpoint?
I'm under the impression from what we've talked about, and that's why I was
wondering. That is my standpoint?
Let me finish. What we disagree on, you had made the point multiple times.
It's a yes or no question.
You have made the point multiple times that if truth is not given to you in a way that you receive it, that you don't have to receive it.
So you're under the impression, yes is the answer to my question. You're under the impression that is where I'm coming from.
If what I just said sounds like that, then yes.
Got it. You're wrong.
Okay, so you think that if someone, then we're on the same page then. So if you think
I don't know
if
we're on the same page, because apparently I'm arrogant and
I never said you were arrogant. I never said you were arrogant.
You didn't use the word arrogant?
I used the word arrogant. I never said you were arrogant. I said the idea.
I just asked you, was that me or not?
I said the idea that if a teacher does not give it to you in a way that you deem loving or you deem helpful, then I don't have to receive it. That idea is arrogant. Whoever thinks
so
that.
we are at polar opposites. I was right when I said that. We're at polar opposites. You and I see things completely different. You happen to think that where I am coming from is arrogant. Oh, we're bringing people into...
These are requests.
Okay.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I feel a little harpooned. I'm going to be really honest with you. Go ahead and speak, because I don't even remember what I was going to say.
Well, the point that I was making is it is arrogant for someone, myself included. If I go to a church and I said church hurt is real. If I am under the impression that, hey, I don't have to accept any truth from you if I deem it personally, only my own subjective feelings, if I deem it as mean and these other things, and I think you don't deserve to tell people the truth, and I don't have to accept the truth. If I recognize it in anything you said, I think that's arrogant, an arrogant idea.
I think that you have a right to your opinion, and I think that...
So you don't think that's arrogant?
I think that you have twisted every single thing around that I was saying. That's me being honest. That is not what I said. And I think what you just did made room for people to be bullied, people to be dehumanized, and people to be, and again, what I think you just did, that argument you're making, made room for people to be abused by people spiritually, mentally, and emotionally under the guise of, I'm giving you truth.
I don't think anyone should have the excuse to take advantage of someone's
I think people use that as an excuse every single day. And I'm concerned with the people
they are completely wrong.
Well, that's what I'm advocating for. I'm advocating
wrong.
For people not being abused and bullied.
I agree with that.
Hafiz, you wanted to, we've talked a lot. Hafiz, what did you want to say?
I'm going to say this last statement. The only issue that I have with it is when it's purely based on a subjective response to say, I think this is what your intention is, and not counseling with others, not seeing all these, but purely if someone claims that that's what it is, that's enough of a reason to say that they don't have to accept the truth. That's the only thing I disagree with. And if you're not saying that, then we're on the same page. But if you are saying that, then we're not on the same page.
Okay. Hafiz, I'd love to hear from you. What did you want to say?
What up, Dana? How you doing? It's been a long time.
It has been. God bless you, sir.
God bless you, too. Well, I've been watching you guys' conversation, and I did not come in for reinforcements. So all the ladies who are saying I came for reinforcements, I did not. I simply came to clarify some points on both people's party because I'm hearing both you guys talking. I'm liking the conversation. Obviously, when people are passionate like you two are, sometimes it gets a little bit heated and intense. And I'm hoping that the people who are trying to listen could receive whatever God has called them to hear today. So I'm very grateful for this conversation. But I want to make it clear, this is not a 2-on-1. You didn't tag me in to do a handicap match. I simply
I'll be real honest. That I was like,
and
okay.
deny if you want me to leave, that'll make you more comfortable. I
don't want
yeah,
you to leave.
leave.
You're here.
He's
I
the
would
only
love to
person
hear
that
what you
requested.
say. I'm just sharing how it felt.
100%. So, like I said, if you're comfortable with me being here, I'll stay. If you're not, you and I can talk off camera, whatever.
I would love to hear what you have to say.
No problem. Thank you so much. So, first and foremost, me personally, I do not want to talk about Kevin. I have no interest in talking about Kevin as a person, his ideas. I'm not interested in talking about his tonality. So everybody here who wants to talk about Kevin and argue stuff about Kevin and disagree with Kevin, please, we had 2 hours of that. I hope to take us forward. I have no interest in it. For anybody in the comments, for anybody, if either Zach or Denai, I have no interest in it.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So we're all on the same page. What I think Denai is saying is really powerful. So I'm gonna give Denai hers, and I'm gonna give what Zach is trying to say, because it is 100% truth. There is a lot of people in today's world, myself included, where my dad has to call me on the phone and say, Hafiz, the way you talk to so-and-so is bad. That's one of the biggest things I have to work on. So I know for a fact, I ain't talking about nobody, I'm talking about me. I know for 100% fact that there is a way you talk to somebody. And if you, as the night said, if you put the medicine in a bunch of cow dung, most people won't take it. Should they take the medicine? I suppose. But to Denai's point, most people won't. And if you understand that most people won't take it that way, don't give it to them that way. And then don't get mad if they don't like you for giving it. So I agree that when it comes to conversations and sharing messages, truth must be given with grace and wisdom. And we should constantly be improving, myself included. We must constantly be improving to give our words in the most helpful and healthy way possible.
Right.
So I want to make it clear. The second point, and this is where I think some of the men feel, a lot of men were raised receiving the truth in a lot of cow dung. A lot of men with our coaches, a lot of men with our mothers. You and I talked about sometimes how the mothers are harsh, the fathers as well. A lot of men are used to receiving the truth in a very harsh manner. I mean, our coaches will call us all kind of SOBs, mother effers, things like we would be used to stuff like that. So a lot of us men got used to hearing messages in that way.
Yes.
And we got used to receiving truth in harsh ways. And we heard things from other people that we were like, dang, I didn't like the way you talked about me. Now, you didn't like the truth. So a lot of men are conditioned to receive it that way, and we think that's normal. So
Agreed.
what happens is that now a lot of men, when they see somebody giving that message to women, they're like, it's about time.
Yes.
It's about time. And in their brain, they've gotten so used to it. They've gotten so used to that kind of tonality, they think that it's normal. And let me be honest, I personally like that kind of talk.
Okay.
Me personally, I'm a direct guy. I need you to be direct. I need you to be assertive. I like the pepper soup. I like that. But a lot of people don't. Like my brother is the exact opposite of me. And so when talking to different individuals, some people can receive direct truths and other people can't. Like disciplining a child. Some child needs timeout. Some childs do need spanking. You don't spank the kid that needs timeout, and you don't give the kid timeout that needs to spank it. So to me, what I know for a fact is that a lot of men receive information that way. And there's also a small, in my opinion, there's a small community of women who also receive information that way. They do receive it in a very direct way. They may had a dad who was in the military, who was straight up, who was giving them the facts. So they're able to receive it in that manner.
Agreed.
So what I've noticed is that on the flip side, we as a society have become too coddled, to Zach's point. So
Agreed.
there's an extreme, right? So on one extreme is what denies vehemently against, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but what denies
You're
against,
saying it right. You're saying
what
it right.
denies against is abuse. She's against that. There's on one side of the equation, there is verbal abuse and there is that kind of unhealthiness. But then on Zach's side of the equation, to use denies illustration, there's some people who put the truth in a whole bunch of cotton candy. They put it in so much cotton candy, they water that drink down so much, I'm not even sure how much liquor is in it.
Agreed.
So now you have the other side of the equation where words, because people are so sensitive, words have been watered down so much. There's no more truth in it. Now you and I know there's so many churches. There's so many churches that they don't want to offend people. They don't preach no Bible. They just go in Psalms. They don't want to offend nobody, whatever, because they are so watered down and they don't want to give people the truth. So there is a community of men and people like Zach who feel like, dang, there's so many people who only want the truth when it's filled with sugar and Kool-Aid, that therefore it's unhealthy. So both extremes are wrong, right? Both extremes are wrong.
And that's not what I'm saying. I agree with you.
100, and that's not what Zach's saying either, because both you guys come from a different angle. You come from the angle of grace and truth.
Yes.
Zach comes from the angle of honesty and truth, right? It's not saying that grace doesn't have to be honest, but sometimes you can be honest and not graceful. Some men can handle that, and some women can. And so to me, I don't see it as like you guys on opposite sides. I think you guys are both balanced, but you both lean in one direction. And I just want to provide that to the conversation. And I want to talk about ideas. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. And I'll give it to Zach. But I'm curious to your thoughts about it. I want to talk about ideas in the Black community. So I want to talk about ideas and see where both you guys land on, so that the people can understand. If you guys are both saying that the truth needs to be said in the community, I'm just curious if you guys agree with these ideas that are being taught. So cool. I'm gonna ask Zach and I'm gonna ask Denai. So Zach, my question is, should sex outside of marriage be promoted in the Black community?
Absolutely not.
Denai, what about you?
Absolutely not.
So we're both on the same page.
Right.
We're both on the same page. So we both believe the same thing. So my question is, in regards to adultery, should men commit adultery and women commit adultery? Zach, do you believe that should be preached?
No, they shouldn't.
Denai, what about you?
No way.
So I want people who have been watching to understand both these individuals both come with the same views in regards to things, truth, that they believe is unhealthy to be taught. So sometimes people like to say, well, women don't teach the truth or men don't teach the truth. Let's stop demonizing each other. Both people are viewing these things to be equal. But here it gets a little funky. Mm-hmm. Now we get a little funky. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, Zach, do you believe that generally speaking, it is important for a man to be financially stable to attract a spouse, because those are some things that women, generally speaking, desire?
Yes.
Denai, what about you?
Yes.
100%. So we're clear. We're not saying six figures, a millionaire, billionaire. We're just saying financially. All we're saying, for clarification for anyone listening, all we're saying is financial stability is important for men, for being a human being. Let's start it from there. And
even for him to love himself and feel confident enough to even approach a woman.
100%. I love it. So we're both on the same page when it comes to that. So let me talk about something else that was discussed earlier today. Mm-hmm. So Zach, do you believe it's important for a woman to be physically fit, not only for her own health and well-being, but also for attracting a partner, primarily for health and well-being, but also for attracting a partner?
Yes.
Denai, what about you?
Absolutely. And I have actually preached that to many, many, many of my clients and to my audience. In kindness. Truth in kindness. Yes, I agree with you.
100%. So I just wanted to hop on and share these things because I would love for you two to continue this conversation. I know Zach may have things to do, but to continue this conversation. And I want to talk about ideas. So
I am grateful for you, Hafiz. I'm
is saying,
interrupting you, but I have to say thank you. I'm interrupting you, but I have to say thank
You
you.
need to say thank you for letting me,
I
for
do.
me bringing
I have
them
to
on
say thank
now.
you. What did you say?
I said, now you
Well,
need to thank me for bringing them on.
because in all honesty, I don't know what I'm getting into, and that looked like a harpoon. So I'm going to tell the truth about that.
What do you mean by harpoon? What is that? I never heard that word before.
My words are gone. It looked like I was about to be, I don't know, sandbagged or double teamed or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And so I would rather say that ahead of it and tell you how I'm honestly feeling. And if it's not that, amen. And if it is that, I went on record as saying, I told you how I felt. There you go.
No.
I love it.
And I know you got to hop off now, right?
Yeah, I'm hop off.
Okay, well, before you hop off, I gotta say thank you. That was awesome, and specifically for being a non-biased third party who was watching, who could connect the dots. Because several times we tried to say, "Are we saying the same thing or are we not?" And it came out where it was like, "Oh, I guess we're on polar opposites."
Yeah.
But we actually agree on a lot of things. So thank you for
no
making
problem.
that point.
Yeah. So,
one of the things that someone just said. I was trying to get the comment. Someone said, because they went to an issue in the Black community, and I think it was something on, I'm going to try to find it on here. I think it was something on single parents. Was it single parents? Someone posed a question. I thought it was really great. Something that if
you guys have questions, if you guys have questions, click the question mark tab. And for anybody that says, like I said, I think I've made it clear.
I think
the ideas.
If I could just say one thing about what he just said.
Go ahead.
One of the things that I think was really great that he just highlighted, because we're clearly way more alike than we are separate, is truth with grace, and specifically, like, for instance, with the weight thing. People could assume that you don't think that, and I'm saying you as in people, not you, but that you don't think that a woman's appearance or her weight or her being fit, etc., is important, because you're saying there's a way that you communicate with her and saying that. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying, which I love that he pulled out, men are absolutely visual creatures. And if you want to date and you want to increase the likelihood of you being universally attractive to as many men as possible, which increases the likelihood that you would actually find what it is you're looking for, then you want to make yourself appealing to them, not just you. And so being your best in every way, shape, or form is going to mean, you have more options. And by options, let me be clear, because people take that wrong too. I don't mean options as in playing men against each other. I mean in terms of, if you're trying to find a husband, then you want to just increase your likelihood, increase the odds. So I'm all for that. And I'm all for it on the other side with men, being gainfully employed. That doesn't mean you have to make six figures, and it doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire. And I've said that many, many different times, that women need money, men need, sensual and sexual stability, and etc. And us understanding that about each other is going to not only increase the likelihood that we'll get what we want, but that we keep what we want, and that we understand the motivations of the opposite sex.
Right. And I think, and here's the other thing that they don't know, is the phone call we had before we got on. First of all, we don't know each other, so I can understand that maybe you're like,
we met today.
I don't know, maybe he's trying to trap me or something like that. I truly believe that your motivation is to help. And I hope that you believe that my motivation is to help too. And I believe that your foundation is on the Bible, because I've actually watched some of your lives you put on YouTube once I found out about you. I started watching it. I think you have a lot of great stuff to say, and I think that you say a lot of truthful things that people need to hear. I just don't want people to misunderstand that. I think, like Hafiz pointed out, we want the same things. We want we want God's kingdom here. We're trying to build that within our community and within the world. We believe in the same things. Where we might differ slightly, and we're only talking about this because it's alive about this topic, but where we may slightly disagree, possibly, is just
How?
I think we take a left turn to get here faster. I think we take a right turn to get here faster. It's not
how?
the destination is not different. We believe the same destination is the same place. And who knows, when we get to heaven, maybe God will say, hey, both of you needed to work on things a little bit, you know? Like,
clearly.
You know what I'm saying? You know, maybe God will say, hey, Denai did things her way, Zach did things my way. You know? I'm just playing. I'm joking about that. But we both want the same thing. And I believe that I hope this conversation has been positive for people. And I hope that no one thinks that I believe, like, the things that she had a problem with the things, the statements that were made before, I also have a problem with those statements too. I want to clear that with everybody. And I want you guys to know that we agree on way more things than we may appear to disagree on, that may not even be disagreements, but we lean more one side or the other when it comes to grace, truth, dynamic. But we're on team. We're both on team Jesus. You know, like, I'm not saying she's not a believer. She's not saying I'm not a believer. I don't think she is. You know?
No.
So I just want to clear that up for everybody too, just so they know.
Yeah. So I think, I got it. I'm so loving Hafiz right now. I think, great dialogues I love and look forward to. And they can be challenging, but they still need to happen because we need to talk to each other and we need to connect and we need to grow from one another and we need to learn from one another. And when we have these conversations, those are things that are possible. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful. I love what he said also about that there is a segment of men who got it really hard, because I see that coming with a lot of the men giving feedback as well, who got it really hard, got really hard lessons from their dads or their moms or their coaches especially. I've spoken with a lot of men who have also revealed to me how some of the things that their coaches said were brutality and total abusive, etc. And I have total compassion for that. And I'm going, so yeah, I'm receiving feedback from people in all different facets of life. Only with masculinity, there tends to be, you guys are held to an even harsher standard than we are in terms of if you can't take that, or if you had a problem with that, or if you would prefer that your coach had said things to you in a different way, then, it's every guy jumping on top of you, and there's no way for a man to be able to say that. But what I was trying to say as an empath and as someone, with a soft heart who, like I said, God made me that way and I'm grateful for it. I connect with people in those areas, and I connect with people, and people are able to tell me the truth in ways that they would not tell someone the truth that they didn't feel safe with, because they're afraid that person's going to make fun of them or bully them or say something, or weaponize their truth. They'll share with me, yeah, I didn't like it when my coach said this, or I did feel, some type of way when they did A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And instead of me saying, well, instead of me assuming, is what I'll say, that your issue wasn't with the way that your coach was talking to you, your issue was that you just didn't want to be disciplined. You just didn't want accountability. I'm like, no, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that, as he said, some kids are okay with a timeout and some kids are okay with a spanking. And the fact that we're saying all kids need a spanking, I take issue with.
Right.
So
it's kind of like is this where you're coming from? I just want to make sure I'm clear. It's kind of like some people who are teachers or people of authority that are giving advice. Sometimes they're just assuming that because someone doesn't like the message, they're just assuming, oh, you don't like it because it's the truth. You don't like it because it's the truth. Yeah. And for anyone that's
it. And it has nothing to do with it being the truth, because you sat under several other teachers who also gave you the truth, but they did it without the dung. And you were fine. Right. So it's clearly not the truth. Otherwise, you'd be like, oh, I don't want this teacher either. I don't want that teacher. I don't want that teacher either. Right. Because it really is, I don't want accountability.
Right.
I want to do whatever I want to do. Exactly. And I don't want anybody to challenge me on it. And I don't want anybody to tell me anything about it. And everybody should kiss my butt and say I'm awesome.
Right.
No.
Right.
I'm still looking for truth, but I'm looking for truth with people. And I love that you said this. Thank you. because that's what it's sold as. Well, no, you just have a problem with accountability.
Right.
No, I don't. I get accountability over here. It doesn't come with a side of cow dung.
Right. And I would say, and I think we could both agree on this, because it depends on our own personal perspective, because you shared part of your life, and I'm thankful that you opened up about that and shared that there are people that will take advantage and be, the Bible gives instructions for leaders and gives instructions that leaders should teach with, I believe it's in one of the epistles from Paul, but it basically says that we need to teach in truth and meekness as elders and overseers of the church. Truth and meekness. It doesn't mean just beating someone over the head. And some people take advantage of that. Some people are abusive with that power. And some people will say, you're just saying that because you don't like the truth. And they're using it as an excuse to push that.
To beat
and
someone.
I agree. Yeah. And I agree with that, because their intention really isn't to help. I agree with that 1,000%. And what I've experienced in my personal life, because, we're going to have different experiences, is I've experienced sometimes people will, from the receiver's perspective, because I agree that there's nothing about what you just said with the delivery and the person that I disagree with. I think all people of authority and teachers should be held to that standard. That's the standard, and that's what they should be held to if you're a believer, and that's what we hold our believer standards to, 100%. And
not everyone should aspire to teach, because teachers are going to be held to a higher standard.
Exactly.
That's scripture too.
Exactly, 1,000%. And I would say that from my perspective of the life I've lived so far, the 31 years so far, I gotta remind myself every now and then, 31 years that I've lived so far, I've experienced sometimes where a lot of people have been like, man, I just don't like the fact that he told me this at all. Can you believe him? And I'm like, dude, but like, it's true though. And it's like, what? Are you on his side too? It's like, no, you need to stop doing drugs. Like, I don't know who else needs to tell you that. You need to stop smoking weed. You need to stop drinking. You need to stop doing these things. Like, you do. And they're like, well, I don't need you either. And it's like, dude, so there's a population that takes advantage of power and abuses people. And I would say that there's a population out there that uses the victim card that's really not in that situation for the truth. And I would say it just depends on who you've been around more that may shape your perception of what more is out there. But I would agree 1,000% that there are people that are teachers that need to be held to a higher standard and that need to be called out by the church. And I think that if we build up both of those fronts, both of them, like maybe your calling is to the teachers. Maybe my calling is to the listeners, And so if our calling, like if your calling is you fix tires and I fix, I don't know, windows, my work is going to look a little different than yours. But at the end of the day, we're both fixing the car. And people need to understand that my approach may look a little different than hers. Her approach may look different than mine. But I can learn something about fixing tires that I haven't experienced because I haven't lived her life. And I'm sure she could probably learn something about windows because she hasn't lived my life. But I just want to say, I don't know how much more time you have, but I want to say that with the passion and everything, because we talked on the phone, we said it'd be passionate, right? I appreciate you coming on and having this conversation because I really enjoyed it. And I hope
Me too.
Yeah. I hope that everyone else enjoyed it.
So I was raised with boys. I was the only girl. And it's also why I speak so loud. Some people don't like it, whatever. I guess they're not my people. I can't be accepted by everybody. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Yeah. But I was raised with boys. So as sensitive as I am, my sensibilities are different than a lot of girls because I was with so many guys. And in order to even be heard, you had to fight to get in there. But not just fight to get in there. You couldn't be emotional, and you had to have your argument together. And you had to understand that arguments are not personal in terms of we're just wrestling over a topic or we're wrestling over, subject matter. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I don't find that offensive. And I never have. I've never found it offensive to be, even violently, passionately disagreeing about subject matter and then going out for coffee after but that's because I was like raised with boys and that's what they do. You know what I mean? So like, I get that. And that's why it's always like, you know, all right, let's not make personal attacks. And as long as we're not doing that, A, voraciously tackle the subject matter and let's get into it. And it doesn't scare me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for that. I'm all for debate. I'm like, all I was taught was have your homework, you know, do your homework, do your research. And if so, come to the table and, you know, go at it. And it's all good. And for those who don't get that, like who might follow me or who are, you know, in the comments, because we have a lot of really great heated discussions in my comment sections as well. Please know that's where I'm coming from. If I disagree with something that you're saying, it is never personal. I am never attacking you. I am only going for, here is an argument that you made and I disagree with it and here is why. So it's also not just like, oh, well, you're wrong. You know, it's also like sharing a context and a perspective that might allow for you to learn something. And then maybe if you see something in my perspective where you're like, well, I disagree with that, you tell me, well, here is why, so I can learn something from you too. But I've never had an issue with, you know, with a heated debate. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So I had fun too, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I appreciate that. And for everyone watching, I think more conversations like this need to be had in the church, but also in the community, because we are in this, I think that we're in a stage right now where it's like, if you disagree with someone, oh, they're what's wrong with the world. They're what's wrong with the world. Instead of,
I agree.
Hey, I'm going to put up my best ideas. Shoot the best shots at me you can. Now you put up yours, I'll shoot the holes in them I can't, and then I'll look at my holes and I'll say, okay, I could learn from this. I could learn from that.
Yeah, there was a point there.
Do the same thing.
That made sense.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So,
yeah.
Because, I mean, so I just hope that everybody watching understands that we're both on the same team. We're both on Team Jesus. Yeah. We both want Black America to do well, to do better, and to be have a solid foundation for kids, men and women, and most importantly, a relationship with God, an individual relationship with Jesus.
Totally. I'm 100% in agreement with all of that. And I think, having more conversations where we're talking about this, because I'm going to interject his name one last time, but in a good way. The things that I didn't get to hear from him, I am looking forward to hearing from people like yourself and other people who admired him and said, here are the things he was tackling that we still need to tackle. I'm totally for that. You know what I mean? And so that's why I was trying to find that comment from whoever said it. Someone said something about single parents, and it was posed in such a way that it was kind of the perfect question to launch a discussion on regarding how do we deal with the fact that single parent households are an epidemic in our communities. And I will preface this by saying, and I know you're probably like, you don't even have to do that, but I'll preface this by saying, you know, if you are a single mom, single dad, this isn't to condemn you or anything like that. I'm always solution-based, but I do want to address it and say, how do we, for those of us who are not single parents, you know, how do we make sure that those people who want to be in relationships and want to be married end up in marriages so that, you know, their families are, you know, fully functional families. And for those who are not, who are single parents and they're seeking to actually join, you know, into a family, how do we make that possible as well? And I know a lot of people have done that. I know a lot of, you know, steps, you know, who one person had a child, another person had a child, and they got together and they're doing wonderful and thriving. And it's a beautiful thing. And I will say, because I had never heard him say this, but your original video that started this conversation, one of the things you said that he does say is when single moms call in, what do you think about going back to your baby's daddy? I agree with that. You know what I mean? Like unless there was some like abuse or something really wrong. Yeah. So if it's a totally dysfunctional situation, no, don't go back. Right. But if it's not a totally dysfunctional situation, can we start considering, maybe he wasn't the worst in the world, and that's not how I want to say it.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
this is something that could be worked out.
Right.
And maybe this is, you know, maybe this is a doable situation where if we both put our pride away and we both put our egos away and we both put our own ideas about how every single thing has to be, and we start actually working together as a team, maybe we could get back together and get married. You know what I mean? And maybe that would actually be a viable solution that would contribute to our communities being healthy, is what I'm trying to say. I'm talking too long, but I'm trying to say that.
No. That's good. I think that's definitely needed. And I think that, I mean, if you're down for it, I would love some other time, you know, in the future to talk about.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, cool. What's your solutions? And you know, what are some of my ideas? Bounce off each other.
Let's tackle some of this stuff.
Exactly. Because like you said at the beginning, that I think I have a problem with people doing is sometimes people will point out the problem and then walk away. They won't point out the problem and give them a map. They won't point it like you said when you were younger. That girl just said, well, don't do that.
I didn't eat that.
Yeah. Instead of,
thanks.
Hey,
now I know how to lose weight. Thank you.
Instead of saying, hey, here's the plan, here's how to get you there. Because what I've realized is sometimes there are some people that will recognize you're here and they'll tell you you're here, but they never want you to get there.
Yeah, and that happens too.
And the difference is you've got to recognize the people, and this is what I would say, this is how I look at it. The people that actually want you to get here, they're gonna point out how much this is not fun. And they're going to say, but we can get here and this is how we do it. And those are the people that you need in your corner that will give you steps. If someone just says, oh, well, that's how you're there, I'm not going to tell you how to get there, then there's no truth in that. There's nothing you can use in that.
For no reason.
So yeah, I agree with you. And like I said, I'd love to have this conversation. And for everybody.
And provide stuff people can use. Like you said, stuff you can use.
Right. And I think everybody that I've got to get off in a little bit. I just had a baby.
Yeah, it's fine.
Well, my wife had a baby a couple weeks ago. He's 3
Congratulations.
3 weeks old. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah. So, for everyone that's just watching, I share the entire lives on YouTube. So I saved this and then we post it to our YouTube channel. The link is in the bio on Kaz TV, and I'll send you a copy of this too. So if you want, you can. I don't know if do you still post your lives on YouTube and stuff?
I haven't been for a long time, but I'm getting ready to start again.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'll send you this one if you want to use it. You can. But for everybody that's watching, thank you, and thank you for joining us because I appreciate that, and I hope you check out some of our. I don't know if you checked out any of our skits that we do. Some people think they're pretty funny. Check them out.
I didn't check out your skits. I saw
check them out. That's the main reason people. Trust me, the video I shared the other day is not the main reason people follow us. It's usually because of the skits we do.
Okay.
And so I'd love to get your opinion on them. But if there's anything else you'd like to add before we hop off.
No, this was great. It's been incredible meeting you and talking with you. And I thank you, to your audience for being kind when they were. And beyond that, we could do this again anytime.
Awesome. Thank you.